Read that you just gave us from Steve Olmsted.
Right.
It's dated today, and it says, in late January 2013, Alan Roddy contacted Ann Howard in our safety and risk department. And then it says that safety and risk was not aware of this rezone application or the associated reports prior to January 2013.
Correct.
This has been ongoing for quite a while, and the concern is apparently the agency reports from the federal and state agencies must have something in them. I don't have those reports in front of me, but saying that we can't get any insurance related to these landfills. Something prompted Alan to contact risk.
I believe Mr. Roddy can answer. I was advised this morning, wanted you to know it, so it was available.
It's a little surprise to the commission, at least to me anyway, that all of a sudden this is an issue, and it's been going. How long has this rezone been pending? For how long?
Well, December of 2011.
So we're 2 years and 2 months. 2011 to, okay, 1 year and 2 months development up against the landfill. And you said that it wasn't a legitimate regulatory concern. And
it's a proprietary concern.
Well,
they're concerned about the ownership and the responsibility of the county with regard to the landfill.
I think it's a regulatory concern because we have a 2008 report by U.S. Department of Health and Human Services talks about this very place. And it says, however, the report states soils at the site need to be further characterized if a change in land use is planned, especially if the site is considered for future residential development. Now, I know you're not building on the landfill, is what you're saying. It says testing has been inadequate to assess public health risks to residents in the Foxfire subdivision. Now, as Commissioner Mason just said, when the landfill was utilized, it certainly didn't end up in that exact configuration that you're showing there, where those, on the eastern side of the smaller landfill, those lots, the way they, no, the eastern side, or western side, I mean, I'm sorry.
This side.
Right.
Now,
I would guess that the landfill wasn't shaped that way when it was a landfill. And you want us to believe that those lots that are right up against that landfill aren't going to disturb the landfill, the soils.
Up against the landfill. We have a buffering distance in there as well. And what we've done.
What is the distance, just out of curiosity?
Do you recall?
Because it doesn't show it there, that's for sure.
I'm sorry, what? It's 10 feet off where we thought it would be.
10 feet from the landfill, where you think the landfill ends?
Yes, where they feel pretty confident that the landfill ends.
We have about 21 cards from the public. So I'd like to request that if the person before you has said something that you agree with, if you wouldn't repeat it, that would help us move expeditiously through these cards.
My choice would be to have no build out at all, of course, the Foxfire. But if done, it needs to be consistent and sensitive to the neighborhoods that it touches. I believe the developer has attempted to do that, and I am personally comforted by their sensitivity. Of course, my one remaining concern is the environmental issue. D.R. Horton has just started breaking ground for 28 new homes in Redhawk on a former Eagle conservation area. We have seen from that the extent of trauma to the land that the earth moving imparts. A neighbor is telling me about broken tiles on their home and major dust and grit in the air, which is consistent with some of the comments I've heard from the commissioners. I am concerned that the assault on the land in Foxfire so close, if not upon landfills, could have unforeseen negative consequences, and that we need to tread conservatively and minimize the risk to health.
Hello, my name is Shawn Driscoll, and I've signed a speaker's card. I know that you have received lots of documents concerning this rezone, and I would like to refer you to a Florida Department of Environmental Protection document titled Use of Old Landfills in Florida in Section E, pages 532 through 544 of your packet. I have provided you a copy previously. What I would like to draw your attention to is the Hampshire Home Landfill Development in Broward County, which is page E536, where 20 of the 307 homes were constructed around the perimeter of the landfill area. Figure 2, can I have the Elmo, please? Figure 2, I'm not sure how to zoom it up, but Figure 2 shows the area 5 years later after development. Even though, well, it's fine. I think the commissioners all have a picture. I have also included pages E627 and pages E628, which is a Tampa Tribune article from May 24th of 2012, where the article details homeowners' inabilities to get insurance for homes built in the Suncoast Meadow development in Pasco County. 50 of the 480 homes were built on landfill areas, which a developer had moved and cleared and covered with clean fill. Even though the homeowner in the article was not one of the 50 homeowners in the landfill area, they were denied coverage even by citizens. The applicant will rebut my statements claiming they are not going to develop on the landfill areas, but both of my points are about homes built in the proximity of landfills. I'm not against development, but I would ask the county to ensure responsible development. Will a community of potentially uninsurable homes have an adverse effect on the surrounding area and the county? Thank you for your time and consideration.
I'm Cindy Samwebber, and I did sign the speaker's card. I'm a 36-year resident of Sarasota County. I'm a 20-year resident of Woodlands across the street from Foxfire. I'm here to talk about the development of the Foxfire landfill or dump, whatever you want to call it. It's a question of semantics. I spent this morning with my sister. Sorry, I'll get emotional. With keeping her company while she had an IV. Recently diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, directly related to environment. My mother died from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, directly related to environmental causes. I spent a few hours this week at Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa for myself. I don't have any results right now, but I do know one thing. Currently, and this is directly from Moffitt Cancer Center, currently, cancers that are being diagnosed in this day and age, over 70% of them are directly related to environmental causes. You may not have known that. I didn't. I think it's something we all need to know, and we need to think about. The developers of Foxfire purchased this property with their eyes wide open. No one told them that there wasn't a landfill or dump there. They're well aware of that. It's not our job to fix a bad business decision. Some developers just have to live with bad business decisions. However, it is our responsibility to take care of this community. I request a deny on this rezone. It is my responsibility to not only this generation, but our children and our children's children, to take care of this county. I could not support this and be able to sleep at night. I can't imagine how anybody else would be able to sleep at night if they supported this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lana Kepler, and I have filled out a speaker's card. I'm speaking for both myself and my husband, Matthew Kepler. We live in Country Creek. It's a development off of Proctor Road, just east of 75, across from Foxfire. And I'm here today to declare our opposition to the development of the old Foxfire Golf Course. It's our opinion that rezoning this land for residential purposes will impose environmental and health hazards to the residents of the surrounding community. Additionally, this proposed development and its accompanying roads will require removal of valuable green space and have a devastating effect on the ecology and natural wildlife in the area. There are several other ways in which rezoning this land would negatively impact the surrounding neighborhoods and homes, such as the impact of water runoff, property boundaries, and buffer zones. But the most concerning issue is the potential environmental impact. If the reports are accurate, we can't understand why this is even up for debate. There are numerous government and private reports documenting the presence of hazardous chemicals and toxic heavy metals buried in the ground on this site. The reports recommend that the land not be developed due to the potential of toxic release and environmental damage. Many of the speakers who are against this project have already made points that I'm in agreement with, so in closing I would just like to reiterate our opposition to rezoning this land. It is not only against the desire of the neighboring communities and residents, but the public health and environmental consequences could be devastating and irreversible. Thank you.
My name is John Garcia, and I signed a speaker card, and a lot of things that I was going to say were already said, and I think Jamie Russell were coming up here with the concerns about the cancer and problems in the area because of the landfill. I'd like to know or state that there's no way that they could know the boundaries of the landfill from 1959 to 1972. Over a 6-year period between there was rampant dumping that wasn't really controlled. It was just unmanaged. Citrus growers, car parts, batteries, all kinds of things were dumped there, and they weren't dumped in a specific area. There were sometimes floods where they dumped it on the side of the road and in different places. And you can also, if you remember the map that was up there that showed the 2 landfills, they didn't mention a 3rd landfill that was there, which is underneath the homes in Foxfire. So there's a 3rd one that they'll probably tell you about when they rebut. Alderman and Associates also was out there prior to this, years ago in the 90s, I believe, and rezoning this property would adversely affect living conditions of people in the area because rezoning would allow a building in the proximity of the landfill, which would break up the leachate, which would cause it to travel in the natural direction from east to west, which we spoke about before. There's an article that came out on October 1st, 1998 in the Sarasota Herald Tribune, and there was lots of talk about it. It said contaminants found in the water. The state says the cancer-causing agents in the groundwater at 2 subdivisions may be from a dump-turned-golf course. Now, the golf course was put there because of the landfill and because of the toxic nature of the land to make it a green area so people would not build there, and everybody forgot about that. The Foxfire Golf Course is built over and may be polluting groundwater and nearby creek with toxic chemicals. I put that report and article up there. Many facts were uncovered clearly stating the toxins in landfill are not only in the 2, but now 3 designated landfill areas. Builders have uncovered underground trash, in many outside areas outside the designated landfill, underneath homes and yards of people that live there now. Proper due diligence was not performed by the developer, nor was it requested by Sarasota County. When National Fairways considered the purchase, they didn't buy it. Due to the unarguable amount of information and facts in this case, the developer didn't address most of the problems. And lastly, cancer rates over the past 40 years should be ascertained for longtime residents of the area. No rezone prior to a Phase 2 study, independent Phase 2 study. Identify the responsible parties for future cleanup, previous illnesses, deaths, and damages. Public health and safety must be your primary concern, not just building. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
Madam Chair.
After much, hearing everyone speak and going to the other meetings, the issue at large that I have right now is that these dump sites were unlined sites, especially the one in the center of the development. I don't know how you can draw out the boundaries of these sites with such a clear line of delineation without doing any testing at all. I have children, our neighbors have children. You see the cause of pesticides and other things that we just ingest in daily living. To build on something that really has not been studied, I think puts us all at risk. So that was really about it, and thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Thank you. Edward Jennings.
Thank you very much. My name's Edward Jennings. I did sign the card. I'm here to speak on my own behalf and my wife, Sally P. Jennings. We own property 1,600 feet directly north of the big ditch on Foxfire Gulf. And by the way, that flooding picture that you saw, when that ditch fills, the water runs across Proctor Road, it goes down Hunters Road, goes down Falcon Place, and it goes down Longleaf, sometimes a foot deep in water. So if the rainwater is going to carry chemicals, it's going to carry it a good way. I'm here to talk to you about the health and safety issue. I want to give you a little lesson in history because I wrote a letter back in June, and I mentioned the, excuse me a minute. I mentioned the Love Canal because this is the exact thing that you are considering today. And it occurred in 1953. I was in college at the time. Some of you may not have even been born. But it occurred on June 5th, 2012. I wrote a letter to Paula Klinsman, which is in your file, okay? And in the course of my letter, I stated the following. It's an answer to your question.
Okay.
If you let me answer, you don't. There is in your file of material for this petition an evaluation report from the Florida Department of Health. From 3 inches of surface soil, that's all they had to dig down, proof that the landfill contains arsenic, cadmium, chromium, lead, mercury, methyl butyl ether. The report further states that between 1995 and 2006, there were numerous complaints of runoffs each year from Ashley residents on the west side of the landfill, which were supposed to be protected by a swale that often filled, allowing runoff of toxins.
I read that, but that doesn't answer my question because I understand what was in there. Are you saying this was a chemical dump site or a dump site? Because they're two different things. So I just want to make sure I understand what you're.
I'm saying both of these sites are toxic waste sites. Toxic waste.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand what you're stating.
They came in with things that are dangerous to health and safety.
Okay.
I'm not a chemist. I'm not a doctor. But I sure know when something isn't right, and it's not right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Madam Commissioner. It's good to see everybody. My name is Jimmy Dean. I am the president of the Ashley Homeowners Association, and as such, we are here to object to this rezoning. We have the deepest sympathy for the petitioner and his counsel. We're sure there is something that can be designed, that can be developed there so that he can have his developable rights. However, the plan as we see it scares us still. It's interesting that the Ashley Homeowners Association was never invited to a workshop one-on-one with the developer. We did get the postcard mailings, but there was no outreach as a community to listen to our objections. Our objections would have been plain and simple. The antique subterranean landfill is toxic. The family that was mentioned earlier, they lived in the yellow house down at the end of Foxfire West. The father died, the daughter died, the horse died. There is something bad in the land there. And we are scared to death that when heavy construction comes in and moves over that land, that soil has been compacted for so many years now. Heavy equipment will disturb what's under there. And it will definitely cause a diminution of our quality of life. We encourage this Board of County Commissioners to deny the petition as it now stands. Thank you very much.
Thank you. James Blackford, Stephen Findlay, Andre Spalvins, and Lourdes Ramirez.
My name is James Blackford. I'm a member of the Trillium community, and I signed a speaker's card. I want to thank you for allowing me to speak today. I also want to thank some of the earlier presenters for clearly outlining the border of the landfill where it ends and where the lots begin. That was easy to see. I'm not an expert. What I can't see is what's going on underneath those borders. I don't know if a ditch is an adequate boundary between the landfill and the homeowners' lots. I just don't know about that. But I can speak about my community and then this proposed community. One of the things that really enriches the Trillium community is that we have some younger couples, and the thing that really enriches the community is we have a lot of great kids running around. And I'm not privy to the price points of the proposed community, but I would imagine that that would draw younger couples with kids. And if you know kids, they have a tendency to run around and do a lot of exploring. And with that in mind, I just personally can't imagine buying a lot in there if I had kids. For my own personal safety, there's no way I would let my kids run around, even if the landfill area.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Andre Spalvins, and I have signed the card. I want the Commissioners to think what they would do if their adult children came to them and said, we're building a house in Foxfire, and this is where we're going to raise your grandchildren. Knowing what you really know, would you say anything to them? I'm sorry. Carolyn? I'm sorry, can I start again, please?
Go ahead.
I'm not sure you guys heard me because you were talking between each other.
The mics are very good. We heard.
Okay. I would just like you to ask, really knowing what you do, would you say anything to them? I ask you to think and then deny. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lourdes Ramirez. I'm president of CONA, Sarasota County Council of Neighborhood Associations. We represent over 70 neighborhoods throughout Sarasota County. We urge you to deny this petition. We're here to support the surrounding neighborhoods around this petition. It just doesn't make sense. There's a few concerns we have, not only the public safety concern, the fact that it's a landfill.
Jeff Miller, followed by Simon Rosin, Lorraine Pavlakis, and Matt Seiler, and John Kramer.
All right, good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Jeff Miller, and I have signed a speaker card. I represent the Woodlands at Bent Tree, their HOA. Our subdivision is located just across from Foxfire, so we are directly affected by this proposal. We've been actively involved in the process for the last year. We've attended all the neighborhood meetings. We've testified at the Planning Commission twice, and we submitted a petition to the Planning Commission of about 100 of our residents expressing some concerns about the project. We are not anti-development. We recognize that something will be built on this property at some point, so we want to stay involved in the process all the way through.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Simon Rosin. My first on-hand experience with Foxfire was getting stuck on the 70 acres that was a dump. We didn't have landfills then. We didn't have liners. The county had belonged. The property had been previously owned by the county. When my client bought the property, the dump sites were free because they had no value. Whether you want to engage in a discussion of chemical or toxic or whatever, Mrs. Robinson, the Florida crackers dumped DDT, chloridane, abandoned vehicles. My father's law office was in Sarasota and Arcadia. We had to go that way to get back and forth to the two offices and the two homes. It flooded. Sometimes Dad would have to go back and go through Mayaca City. That's why the golf course isn't built there, because it floods. And the reason why Ashley and Redhawk and all those had to conform and Foxfire didn't, we were first. Alan's absolutely correct. At the Planning Commission way back when, because it was rural and because some of the clients' wives wanted horses, is why it was 2 acres per one, and we wanted the dump site. We knew we couldn't use it, but we wanted it for acreage and density. In fact, Jim Mosby, our then engineer, refused to be where one of the speakers was, and that is east, because he got 4 lots as part of his fee, and he wanted to be as far away from the toxic dump site as possible. And it is idiocy to believe that chemicals and poisons don't migrate. You've got all those reports. I'm sorry I don't have the letter Mr. Garcia does, telling Jim Lay from the Florida EPA that he was treading on very dangerous grounds. He put the county administrator on notice. And you talk about notice. Counselor, I'm sorry I don't know you, but I got tired when I was a young lawyer with old lawyers lecturing me, and Mr. Trawick still does it. But us developer lawyers, and Mr. Oliveri, who's part of the bunch that does financing, will tell you that in the contract to acquire the acreage, we put in their soil samples. I noticed the engineers that testified before didn't offer to give you any of their work product. That scares me. I'm used to Lobeck fighting me because I'm used to representing petitioners. This is the only rezone petition in 44 years I've opposed. This scares me.
Please, no clapping, please. Lorraine, and while she comes, Mr. Findlay came back into the room, I'm told. If you want to get behind Matt Seiler.
My name is Lorraine Pavlakis. I'm a resident of Redhawk, the Phase 1 area, Grassland Court. I'm speaking for myself. I have signed the speaker card. I'm a terrible speaker, so forgive. Have a little patience. Since the commissioners have already received an email which became part of the record for this proceeding, I will not reiterate all my concerns. I just want to personally appeal to you, the commissioners, to reject this proposal and protect my investment and my lifestyle. I believe approval of this plan will result in a grave injustice to all the homeowners who had, with county assurances, purchased their homes.
Okay, I apologize for that. I am a resident of Redhawk Reserve as well as a licensed professional engineer, and I am concerned about why the eastern border of the western landfill was not field located. The testimony I heard was that there's a large ditch that separates the landfill from the proposed residential area, and that may be true today, but I do not believe that that ditch was always there. If we look at an aerial of the area from the 1970s, and I may need to zoom in on the Elmo. Okay. What I see here are ditches in this area. I do not see a ditch along the eastern portion of the landfill there. What I see is a roadway connecting this area, and I see some sort of activity occurring in this little area here, which is outside the limits of where the ditch would be today. So it appears to me, from looking at this, that the ditch was constructed after these landfill operations were in place, and that is likely that some landfill activity was occurring past where that ditch is. In addition, I took some publicly available LiDAR data and created a digital elevation model of the area, and this may be confusing to see if I can back out of the Elmo. But in general, the low areas, thank you, are green and blue, and the higher areas are red and white. Our neighbors in Trillium over here are at the top of the hill. And what we see here in the landfill area are high areas, which presumably are the buried trash there, that closely matches the signature that we see from the old aerials. and you can see that there are some pockets of high land area here past where the existing ditch is. Is that trash? I don't know. But I think it's imperative that we field locate where that trash ends before we even consider placing any residential units in this area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, is he going to turn those in?
Yes, submit those to the clerk.
Hello, my name is Matt Seiler, and I have signed the speaker's card. I want to thank the public for coming out to all the workshops and all the different times we've come to the planning commissions, your commission, back to the planning commission. I do appreciate your time. I just have to say I'm here to reject this petition for rezone because just the fact there's just so many things wrong with this. The fact that the original petitioner has not been honest throughout this whole proceedings. I have to say the things that Mr. Merrill has said about the public workshops are pretty inaccurate. I have to say they're very inaccurate. The fact that the reason why we're here is because there is a stipulation that says that this is supposed to be a golf course. And the only time that the owner can come back for a rezone is to say that as so long as the golf course and country club remains an economically feasible use for the golf course property. The problem is that in 2006, Foxfire Golf Course of Sarasota, LC, sold to Foxfire Properties, LLC, and they immediately closed the property. So at what point did they try to run a golf course? At what point did they show that this is not an economically feasible property? The fact that this is an inherent risk when you buy a piece of property like this, and it comes with certain things attached to it, like you can't build homes on a dump. The fact that I call it a dump because you dig a hole and you dump stuff in it. You want to see a landfill, you can go out the end of Bee Ridge. That's a landfill. The fact that from 1959 to 1972, this was an unmanned, except for one person who had a backhoe. You came, you dumped stuff, and he would push it into a pile. Sometimes they'd burn it. We don't know where things are. People have come and testified during workshops. Gentlemen have come who have said that this is a well-known flooding area. And if they couldn't get to where you're supposed to dump it, they would dump wherever they could. So to assume that you know exactly where things are put in the ground is assuming too much. And the fact that, let's just take a second here and think that 1959 through 1972, probably the three worst decades for any kind of chemicals used to dump in the ground.
Hello, my name is Steve Findlay. I signed the speaker's card. I live at 7570 Preservation Drive in Heron Lakes, which is a community located very close to this property being discussed here today for rezoning approval. I am a concerned resident and Sarasota citizen. I've read the reports and I understand there is toxic material on the landfill and golf course. I think it is a risk to the health and welfare of everyone living in the area to disturb the ground, considering there are toxic levels of lead and cancer-causing agents in the soil. We do not want to get sick, nor see new homeowners having to remove trash when they decide to build a pool. We want this area left a green space as it was originally intended when the golf course was put in. All my friends and neighbors are opposed to this rezoning as I am. Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion to deny, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you all, staff, petitioners, residents. Thank you all for your participation here. It's a great example of democracy at work, so thank you.